Hello, YouTube. Deranged Clown here with the clown hair that should be cut here shortly. Uh, yeah, I probably should get a cut. Um, I just want to do a quick little video. I'm going to address a controversy that has arisen and just kind of reassure the party that I've no ill will towards them because I genuinely do not have any ill will towards anyone. I may despise their actions, but I do not waste my time on anger or bitterness or wanting to get revenge. No, that's just a waste of time. It's unhealthy and it's just wrong. So I just want to begin by talking about ADHD. Those of you who know me and know more about this will know what I'm talking about. So, I have known individuals with ADHD, untreated ADHD. Actually, three times now. First time was in about 2002. Second time was in about 2000. What's that? About 15. Yeah, about 2015, 2016, and now. One of the things I do not like about people who have untreated ADHD is they are too aggressive. And I just do not like aggressive people. I'm an introvert. I like peace and quiet. I just do not like contentious people. It doesn't matter if it's because of ADHD or if it's because they're just jerks, you know. Doesn't matter. I just do not like that kind of person. So I avoid them as best I can. And another problem with ADHD is that they tend to just carry grudges because they do not comprehend and process things the way that we normally do. And I'll I'll explain it like this. I was watching a video on YouTube about ADHD, and the way they explained it, it's like they jump from planet to planet to planet to just random all sorts of things, and it's just quirky and happy, just planet to planet to planet stuff, and they're just happy, cutesy people. Well, that causes problems because they may do that, but as they do that, they carry a grudge. And the best way I can explain how ADHD differs from what's normal is I'll start with something that I am familiar with. Use that as an example, the production of cheese. Like many other things in modern society, there's a lot of moving parts involved in cheese. There's the trucks themselves, the truckers that drive the trucks, making sure that the tanks are sterile, making sure that you get quality raw milk, making sure that the milk is pasteurized, making sure that the culture or the bacteria is right, making sure that it's the right amounts placed in there, making sure that the cheese is produced right, making sure that the pH is right. Then it has to be packaged. It has to be packaged correctly, stored correctly. It needs to be sold at a reasonable price. It needs to be shipped in good shape. You got to make sure that the accountants are not skimming money off the top. There's personnel, there's training, there's staffing, there's the demand for cheese. What do you focus on? What don't you focus on? There's just a bewildering number of subtopics under the production of cheese. And a normal person will focus within that area. So they may be looking at a problem with cheese, and they may say, okay, are the trucks being sterilized correctly? Are the drivers making sure that the milk is being sent there right? Okay. Are the people that receive the milk, are they correctly offloading the milk? Is the milk being pasteurized correctly? But regardless of where all their focuses are, they stay within that sphere, if you will, that circle, if you will, of things. They don't go bouncing around from crazy stuff to crazy stuff. People who are really creative, like Studio C comes to mind. Funny, funny skits, awesome, it's worth watching. JK Studios is also good too. But within creative writing, there's also a structure to it. And I'll use some Studio C skits to illustrate that. And I'm doing this because I love creative writing. I think it's fun. Part of the joy of creative writing is never knowing where you're going to wind up. You start out with one idea, next thing you know, you just never know where you're going to wind up. And it's just a lot of fun. But there's a beginning and there's an end, and you follow a structure. And you know when the end hits. It's not, squirrel stuff here. It's, okay, well, it's time to wind this story down. It's time to wind this skit down. So, for example, the starfish video that I highly recommend you watch, that I posted. It went from just, the old saying, oh, if you throw just one starfish back into the ocean, it matters for that starfish. And it just took it to some pretty absurd lengths. And I'm not going to spoil it, but man, it's funny. You got to watch it. It's hilarious. But it came to an end, and then it ended. That's normal. Another form of funny creative writing is, again, by Studio C. It's called channel surfing, where they took 4 different plots, an exercise video, a cooking show, a NASA briefing, and a soap opera. And they kind of interlace those together, and it is so funny and creative. But at its core, it's just 4 components that play off of each other. Whereas someone who has ADHD, at least from what I've seen on YouTube, is they may take something like, say, the production of cheese. They may say, okay, well, it involves bacteria. Well, bacteria is like fungus. And I was one time looking for mushrooms in the forest, and I fell and scraped my knee, and I put Neosporin on my knee, and I don't like Neosporin. I had to use it because my first aid kit wasn't very good. In fact, that first aid kit isn't very good. That brand, I like that brand better. And that plastic, it's recycled plastic and not first use plastic. And I really care about the environment. Oh, and did we mention global warming and how the plastic contributes to global warming, which results to seals and polar bears drowning in the ocean, and then the fur floats up, and then that freezes in the ice, which makes impure ice, and do you see the whole point? Do you see what I'm saying? It just never ends. And it just goes on and 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 on. And there's no rhyme or reason. And one of the things I've observed is that people who have ADHD, who I've associated with, they just tend to just follow that pattern. They take one little thing and they just follow down this long random path, and it doesn't end. There's no rhyme or reason. There's no structure. There's no limit to how many components is involved in that train of thought. There's no structure to the story. There's no, you start out small and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and then you get the big laugh, and then you have a little micro laugh, and then it ends. It just keeps going on and on and on until squirrel. That is a problem with ADHD. And I don't hate people who have it. I think they need to take their medication because it drives people around them nuts. They're not bad people. They just need to take care of their condition. Some people may not like taking medication, but sometimes you got to. I will use myself as an example, and I'm using this as an example because it's pretty well known. I take high blood pressure medication. I've been through a lot of stress, and I have high blood pressure. It's bad enough I've gone to see the doctor, and they've taken my blood pressure twice. One time they even offered me a ride to the hospital in an ambulance. And initially I just thought, oh, well, my heart, it just runs hot. That's fine. But no, there came a time, especially when I was working at Factory X, and I'd gotten through my probationary phase of working there. And they said, okay, go take a company physical. We'll do the paperwork, and you're hired on. And you are hired on as a permanent employee. I went to take the physical, and they just said, we're not going to do it because your blood pressure is way too high. I finally had to go to a gym and get my blood pressure just low enough to do the physical in order to get hired on as a permanent employee. And finally, I realized I need to take blood pressure medication, and I do every day. I work with the doctor. I was initially taking a smaller dose, but after looking at my blood pressure, he said we need to increase the dosage. Since then, it's been stabilized at that dosage. It's a middle of the road dosage. If my blood pressure keeps going up, they can increase it. If it goes down, they can decrease it. I'm probably going to have to take blood pressure medication for the rest of my life. I'm fine with that. Especially after a doctor explained to me what happens if you do not take care of your blood pressure. And I was like, ooh, I guess I probably better look after that, huh? And the doctor's like, yeah, you probably should. Yeah. Yeah, I goofed up there. Oh, well, not the first time or the last. And I think that needs to be something that people who have ADHD or any other mental illness needs to realize, is that there's nothing wrong with having to take medication. There's nothing wrong with regulating your brain, because fundamentally there's a lot in common with regulating your heart, your blood pressure, your heart, versus your brain chemistry. There's nothing wrong with that. And I think if people are willing to take their medication who are mentally ill, then that helps not only themselves, but others as well. And I just want to close by saying, I used to work with a guy many years ago, and his wife had ADD. He didn't, but his wife had ADD, and they got married, they had a child had ADD. And I remember we were working together in the workplace, and he was telling me about that, and I said, oh, that must be hard to deal with. And he said, no, it's not really that hard. Just when they get annoying, referring to his child, he said, I just tell them to go take their meds. And it's not meant to be an insult or rude. It's just go take your meds. All right. Let's get you regulated. Let's get you going. And, you're better off. Everyone's better off. And we all proceed forward with our lives. So if any of you have questions or comments about this, please feel free to put comments to this video in the comment section. I do respond to comments. I do have a really strict policy on what I let through, but if it's not hate, then I'm fine with it. Go for it. Just as long as you're not cussing me out, it's going to make it out in the comment section. So, all right.